Welcome back, Spurs fans, to episode 57 of Casa De Spurs. I'm Steven. This is Danny. We have stuff to say. It's been a long time, Danny. How are you, dude?
We're here. We're back. We are back. I'm good. I'm feeling it. I'm glad to be back on the pod. I'm glad to see your bright, shiny, bearded face. So it's always good to throw down and talk Spurs.
Right.
And I think especially now because we're already about to enter the end of June, July.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of what would normally be the dog days of the NBA season,
right
before free agency. But lo and behold, we still have the playoffs. So that's fun.
It is. As anybody who follows me on social media just recently saw, I was in Jamaica for a few weeks. I look super dark, yeah, man. But it was kind of cool because all the games are on at like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. So it's kind of cool to just jump into one of the sports bars at the resort and be like, hey, let me just catch the Terrence Mann game for no reason. So yeah, it was good vibes. But we got a lot to talk about since our last one. Since the last podcast that we had, the Spurs have had a playoff game. There has been crazy rumors about where Becky Hammond is going to end up. A lot of question marks about Greg Popovich. Apparently, the Spurs sold themselves to Dell Computers, sort of. I mean, there's things there. There's a current sword fight going on social media right now about who's a better basketball player, DeJounte Murray, Ben Simmons. There's a host of all other kinds of drama. But I want to get down to the nitty-gritty of it and what is most recently hot off the press. The San Antonio Spurs, as of about an hour and 15 minutes ago, will be picking number 12th in the 2022 draft. I guess the 2021-2022 draft. So, Danny, just tell me, how did you absorb the draft? We probably knew it was 12. But did you light a candle? Did you light some sage? Like, what was your thing?
I did all the things, lit the candle, said the prayer, fasted, did pretty much everything you could do to kind of hope against hope that we move in with those first 3 or 4 picks. But lo and behold, and let me just say, one of the most uneventful, right? I mean, we're already at the tail end of the lottery as it is, right? We get it. Okay. 14, 13, 12, 11, 10. We know, all right. We know we're not the sexy picks there that we're wanting to see with the first, second, and third pick. But I almost felt like they were going to shoot to a commercial whenever they were going to pull our pinball because, I mean, just so uneventful as far as just saying, yeah, the San Antonio Spurs going to pick number 12 and then moving right along as if they don't disrespect us enough. But yeah, it's definitely one of those that we were definitely hoping against hope that something was going to happen. But you know what? I mean, I can say this, all right, considering that we've been now out of the basketball talk as far as action on the court for about a month now, a little over a month. I think one of us, maybe both of us, or maybe neither of us, I don't know, I forget now, predicted that the Spurs were going to go ahead and win that play-in game. But
we don't need to talk about it. We don't need to talk about that.
Yeah. But you know what? Just like you brought up, though, there's been a lot of just activity around the team. The sale to Dell and 6th Street, Becky Hammond, and then the last 2 days, the rumor mill starting to buzz around possibly having Ben Simmons come and the quotes that have been attributed to former Spurs that did or didn't happen, but actually now it didn't happen. But, yeah, but stuff like that. I mean, I think it's just fun, right? At this point.
Yeah. Oh, lost you for a second there. I think he came back. I hear what you're saying. I think you're right. There's been a lot more drama going on. The big part about this is Spurs fans are thirsty. Like I say that in a very loose, casual phrase, but man, it's been a rough couple years. And so now we're not used to having these early off seasons, and we're not used to being so available right in June in July. The 12th pick, I'm just curious to know, like, the Spurs have $52-ish million in cap space, give or take. I want you to, I'm not asking you to like make an official bet, but do you think they draft a guy at 12, or is this the year where they really make a move? Like, I'm just curious to know what your thoughts are. I'll give you my thoughts as soon as you answer, but I just want to know your thoughts first. Unmute yourself. You're muted. Hang on. Technical difficulties.
Okay, here we go. I'm sorry.
There.
Sorry about that. All right. So here's the thing to answer that question, right? So I know that we're all over the Twitter space, wanting something to happen, needing something to happen. But here's the thing, and this is what I always go back to, because I think this is very relevant whenever we talk about the Spurs and talk about what their future plans are. If we rewind back, I think it was March or April. There's a podcast. I think it was the Low Post podcast. I think Kirk Goldsberry was on there. Of course, Kirk Goldsberry was with the Spurs, I think, for 3 or 4 years. And he basically laid out at that point what the Spurs plans were. Okay. Yeah. Love it, hate it, indifferent. He said that what they plan on doing is that they're going to hitch their horse to the fact that they have better development than any NBA team and better culture, and that they're going to build within. That's through the drafts. Yeah. That's through signing undrafted free agents and possibly free agents. I don't know, but I mean, really, the focus was on the draft. Their player selection through the draft, and of course, they always tout the whole Austin Spurs deal. Right. We've spoke about that ad nauseum. We're not going to go through all that again. I fear that, we might have another casualty to Austin Spurs again this year. Yeah. But if you're asking me what I think is going to happen, I think this is what's going to happen. I think that, we are going to select somebody at number 12. I think it's going to be, it's always so hard, especially right now, because we don't know what's going to happen beforehand. We don't know who's going to fall down in the draft, what's going to happen in terms of players that might be appealing now, falling down to us, and players that maybe no one even knows their name right now shooting up. So it's so hard to even say who they would be drafting. I know what we need. We need a kick-ass wing defender who can score and shoot. We need shooters really bad. We have too many guards. We kind of have a lack of a big man too, if I'm being honest. But we definitely need some shooters.
We can unpack all of those and do an individual podcast on every one of those points. So I'm with you. I think that they're going to end up actually making the selection at 12. I'd say that kind of like, I think as a pessimist, you're either always right or pleasantly surprised. So I'm going to be pessimistic about this particular situation. But before we talk kind of about what the future is, I want to backtrack a little bit. Let's go back to, what was the date that game was played on? May the 19th. That was the actual game with the Spurs against the Memphis Grizzlies. Goodness gracious, that was painful to watch for so many reasons. They were getting blown out, and then they actually came back and lost by 4. We have heard every narrative under the sun that came out of that game, including DeMar DeRozan. I've been a DeMar DeRozan guy, but guy took a dump in the bed. Dylan Brooks ate his lunch. Like, I don't know. There's no other way to say it. But he ate his lunch and popped the bag. We also saw, DeJounte Murray did have a triple-double, so I can give him that. He had, 10 points, 11 assists, 13 rebounds. Great for him. But at the end of the game, what were they looking for? They were looking for iso ball out of Rudy Gay and out of DeMar DeRozan. And here's where I land, Danny, is I think that we can say what we want about DeMar DeRozan's limitations. They are obvious. We've beaten the dead horse all we want to. We can also speak about the young folks' limitations to this point. And that's without going, I know you're a big Lonnie Walker guy. We've got people that are big on Lonnie Walker. I'm big on Keldon Johnson. We've got guys who are big on, everybody has like their favorite piece of the young core. But here is the reality of the situation, regardless of how you feel about any player. There is a gap between the talent level of whatever DeMar DeRozan is. If he's just a mid-range scorer, he's still a 10-year veteran mid-range scorer. And then there's a gap between the development process of some of these young guys. So I'm just interested in the gap right now. I'm not interested in saying who's better at what position and who's got a higher ceiling. I'm talking about the very real reality of the gap. And the gap is where we find questions like names that have to do with John Collins, Ben Simmons, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Suggs, Jalen Green, and what you do to fill that gap. So either you close the gap by getting rid of DeMar DeRozan altogether. That's a very valid option. That's a very valid path. Or maybe you mend the gap and you put pieces in between, like the Duncan Robinsons of the world and, the maybe Rashawn Holmes of the world. I don't know, but the thing is I don't think we've ever seen a gap this wide and had so many options at the same time to fill the gap. Tons of cap space this year. That's a huge advantage that the Spurs have not had. Now they've got a 12th.
Absolutely.
They've got a 12th pick in this year's draft, which is a deep draft. They've got future lottery picks. They've got team-friendly contracts. They've got the ability for sign-in trades in a year that sign-in trades are going to be a big thing because not a lot of teams have cap space. I'm excited to see what they do in the gap, Danny. And I guess I'm just curious, like, what is your number one favorite way? Maybe it's not a specific player. Maybe it's more of like a direction or a strategy. But how do you mine the gap in this situation? I think the gap is going to be really fun. And while we're all at odds with each other on Twitter, the point is we're all trying to figure out how to fill the gap. And I think that's actually a really fun place to be.
Well, first off, I appreciate the double entendre with the mind the gap reference. It's nice.
You're welcome.
But then also, I really appreciate the way that you just crafted that whole thought process, because that you really did succinctly state what our issue is, right? I mean, we have a talent gap.
Mm-hmm.
The whole season, that's all we ever talked about was how we were just outclassed. We weren't good enough. When we look at our own division, right, within the Southwest Division, I think someone out in Spurs Twitter had posted this poll last week talking about, well, I mean, in comparison to everybody else in the Southwest Division, where do the Spurs land? And I think I said something like, well, ask me after Tuesday. Well, we're here. It's Tuesday night. We know it's going to be pick number 12. I'm not really liking our position in the Southwest Division. I mean, it's clearly the Mavericks, the Grizzlies. I would even put the Pelicans in front of us. Yeah. And now maybe the Rockets, because they're gonna have the number 2 pick. I mean, I think they have Mobley at least, and Mobley's a game changer.
Mobley and Wood.
We're not looking good there, but yeah, Mobley and Wood. That's like a new twin tower there, but a souped up version. Yeah. But I mean, to answer your question as far as the direction, I mean, and how we mine that gap, right? This is what I'll say about that. And I know, I could come off as really pessimistic and really just always beating the dead horse sometimes with some of my takes, especially as it pertains to Pop. But here's what I appreciate, whether we were a year too late or a year too early. I'm glad we at least have cap space, right? Because then we can do something. We can trade for a Ben Simmons or another player, and we have that cap space to absorb any big contract. And I especially like the appeal of a sign and trade. I think the talk about, especially, let's just talk about how the whole Ben Simmons deal. I think right now the front runner, if there is going to be a trade, is probably be Portland, right? Because I think they have the more valuable asset with CJ McCollum. Yeah, it's a natural fit for both teams. I think it would be a win-win for both of them. I mean, I think Ben Simmons in Portland would be pretty amazing because they have really good shooters. Right. And Philadelphia needs shooters. And CJ would fit right there, right next to Embiid. But Morey, I think he talked a little bit earlier before the draft lottery. He's kind of non-committal about anything right now, and he should be. There's not really a rush for them to do anything. Right. So, but back to the Spurs. I mean, I'm glad we have that at least. I'm glad that we can kind of fall back and say, hey, let's look at all of our options. Let's see what we can do. But this is what I want. I want them to be aggressive, whether it be go ahead and, you know what, I'm going to offer the max contract to John Collins. Whether he accepts it or whether we get him or not, just do it. That way we can actually see that they're thinking, that there's some kind of thought process there as to, hey, these are the chess moves that we're making. This is our move over here. We're going to move our rook this way. We're going to move our pawn over here in anticipation of eventually moving our queen this way and then maybe getting a player down the line. Right. But at least have some movement, have some aggression, start to show some, start to make some moves, start to actually have some gumption there. But I'm glad we have cap space. That's I think the biggest thing.
What's that phrase? In idle hands is the devil's playground. Like the Spurs have really, Spurs have really been idle the last 2 years with everything that they've done. They've been idle about
for sure
how quickly they might have escalated guys' playing time, like Lonnie Walker. Like I want to know what Lonnie Walker is. We're 2 years after drafting Lonnie Walker, and we're still trying to collectively figure it out. Go ahead. I know that's your boy. You deserve
real quick
rebuttal.
Real quick, and no, and it's not even going to be a rebuttal because this is going to be something that I was talking to somebody else about in regards to Lonnie. This is a make or break year for Lonnie.
Okay.
Make or break year. Those first 30 games are going to be vital.
Big time.
All right. He can either come out the gate and I want to see him shooting 40% from three, getting to the line at least 6 to 9 times, and averaging no less than 16 to 17 points a game.
Good God.
2 or 3 assists. Getting some boards. I want to see something out of him this year because this is going to be his 4th year, right? This is going to be his 4th year, and he's going to be given more opportunity. At least that's what he should be. Should be given more opportunity this year. He needs to show, hey, am I a player or not? All right. He can have all the athleticism in the world, but he needs to be able to show it. And if not, all right, I really do think the Spurs look to move him.
Yeah, I think you need to light a couple candles for that because that's a big But again though, the guy needs the opportunity. We've been slow and idle with him. The Spurs have been slow and idle about what they're going to do with their veterans. Like they should have traded these guys when they had value. There are people right now, and not even on Spurs Twitter, that are talking about Ben Simmons' value dropping so low that he's like a player and a pick. This guy was about to be traded for James Harden. So if that can happen to Ben Simmons, who 18 months ago, everyone would have thought that's a guy you want to build your team around.
Oh,
and now,
absolutely.
Like, what do you think that does to guys like the Rudy Gays and the LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozans of the world? I would also like to say that I think at this point, you're exactly right about the Ben Simmons front. I think Portland is a way more logical place. The Philadelphia 76ers have Joel Embiid. They're not going to take on Lonnie Walker and Luka Šamanić in a first to go pair him with Joel Embiid. As a matter of fact, the best Spurs scenario would probably be a sign and trade for DeMar DeRozan, if we're really honest. But all that being aside, I want to see them do something. I am at a point right now as a fan, and if Peter J. Holt and R.C. Buford and Brian Wright and Greg Popovich and Becky Hammond or whoever is in that organization, if they're watching this, which you and I
Michael Dell,
if they're watching this, and we both know that they are watching this.
Absolutely. They have us on alerts. I know they do.
I'm begging you, do something. Please do something. We have been begging for a direction. I would rather them make a wrong move, not like a wrong move, but make a move that's not the perfect move and then tweak it down the road rather than just spinning their tires again. If you go and make a trade for Ben Simmons right now, Ben Simmons is not turning this team into a franchise contender right now, but you can then say, okay, we have Ben Simmons. So he's a player and we have to now go in the direction of putting players around him. If you make a play for John Collins, same thing. Okay, now we have John Collins. We have to do some things around him. We now have a max player on a friendly max contract. We need to capitalize on this. But if they sit here and let DeMar and Rudy and even Patty Mills walk, and we take the 12th pick in the draft and he goes to Austin, and then the San Antonio Spurs send out Derek White, DeJounte Murray, Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker, and Jakob Poeltl to start the season. Holy bananas. What a wasted opportunity. I just read before we were clicking on here that there's some, like, would you take Kevin Love and the 3rd overall pick right now? Yes, I would do it. Not because I like Kevin Love, but because that's a direction. Yeah. It is a direction. Yeah. It's a move. So I'm just at the point where I'm like, I'm so sick of these idle hands, Danny. Can you do something?
I hear you. And you, again, you put it so well. And I think this is what they need to be doing. And I mean, hopefully, right? I mean, they're getting paid hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to do this. So I mean, us two here on Spurs, on Casa de Spurs, as smart and as slick as we kind of can be at times, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you want to believe that they have a board somewhere at One Spurs Way that they've already constructed. Hey, this is the core of our team.
Yeah.
The core of our team is going to be DeJounte Murray, Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker, Devin Vassell, Derek White, maybe. I don't know. We've talked about him before. I think he's a little bit too injury prone for
All
my
right, pause.
taste.
I want
I
to
mean,
stop you right here.
let's
I
chase it.
have a question.
Go ahead. Do it.
I want to know about
Yeah.
Devin. I want to know about Devin Vassell. I Devin
Yeah.
Vassell. Devin Vassell is continuously talked about. He's automatically a part of the future, and I want to be respectful to him because I'm not knocking him. He was the highest draft pick that the Spurs have had since Tim Duncan, but he was still only 12. So while I respect that he is in that category, he's drafted 6 spots ahead of Lonnie Walker, 8 spots ahead of Luka Doncic. Excuse me, Luka Shamanith Doncic. I wish, yeah. So he's not
Yeah, I wish too.
like he's not like he wasn't a number 1 pick, and he wasn't even like maybe a number 1 pick. He's a lottery pick, and he's good. But what would we have to do to see that? Like, how tightly are they holding on to Vassell? He's going to be good. I don't doubt that at all. But is he going to be that good where you go, I'm not giving this guy up? Like, I would give Devin Vassell up for Ben Simmons right now. They're only like 2 or 3 years apart in age, except the contract. But
well, yeah, for sure, right? And I think the appealing thing, just real quick to hit on the Ben Simmons thing again, the appealing thing for him is he's only 24 years old. 24 years old. He's in a 5-year deal, no player option. I mean, whoever gets him is going to have him locked up. All right. And
I was wrong. Vassell is 20. Vassell's 20.
He's 20. Okay, so 4-year age gap, but even still, right? But in regards to Devin Vassell, let me hit you back with this one right here.
Sure.
And this is the curse of Kawhi Leonard. All right, this is the gift that the gift that keeps on giving, because Kawhi Leonard did what he did. He was the 15th pick, right? 14th or 15th pick by the Pacers.
I think he was 16.
We all know.
I got you.
16.
We're gonna find out.
We all know that the whole George Hill trade. Of course, George Hill was Pop's favorite player at the time. Still traded him over there, but because Kawhi did what he
15.
did you catch that? 15. Okay, because he did what he did, right? He came in kind of unheralded. I mean, we all kind of knew like he was.
Who's Kawhi?
He had a motor on him. Yeah, he had a motor on him. He could defend. He was a wing, right? He was big. He had huge hands, massive hands. 6'8", 6'9". We knew that at that point, coming off of a terrible first round loss to the Grizzlies, we needed something. We needed some kind of jump start, and he was that jump start. And even though it wasn't immediate, I think it took at least half the season for him to actually get consistent playing time. We saw what happened after that. So any draft pick after him, especially guys like Devin Vassell, because he is that rangy 6'8", kind of 3-and-D guy, he's going to be compared to Kawhi Leonard in terms of development. First year out the gate, he gets some playing time. You and I have talked about that as far as how I think we both think, had things been different, had Derek White not gotten hurt, he probably would have gone to the Austin bubble. He probably would have. And he probably would have spent some time there. But because of that injury, that saved him. And he was able to at least stay on the bench. He didn't get the playing time that I think either of us would have wanted.
He was in uniform.
He was in uniform, right? He was able to travel with the team, get his $100 per diem or whatever it is per day for them. But here's the thing with him is, I really do think out of all of the guys that we're talking about, whether it be Derek, DeJounte, Keldon, Lonnie, Luka Samanic, I mean, if we're going to add him, I don't really include him too much whenever it comes to the talented part of the core, okay? But if we're going to talk about him, I think Devin has the most potential to become a star. Yeah. He has the most potential because he has a silky smooth jump shot. I mean, there towards the end, I mean, remember that Phoenix game? Yeah. I mean, Phoenix is over here, game 2 over here. I think they're beating the Clippers before I logged on. That game over there in Phoenix, he won that game for us. I mean, he looked amazing. He looked incredible. He looked like Paul George 2.0, right?
Yeah.
And I think he has that ability, but he just needs to be given opportunity. He needs to be given time. He needs to get that experience. And that's what I think I had kind of referenced the other day we see these guys, right, that are carrying or at least helping their teams a lot. Tyrese Maxey with the Sixers, man with the Clippers,
Yeah.
Trae Young, Kevin Herter. They don't have any more than 2 or 3 years experience, but it's not because they were given an opportunity now. It's because they were given an opportunity 2 or 3 years ago when they were
Right.
drafted. And that's
Right.
why that's why they're ready to contribute now. And that's what
Right.
that's always been our complaint is, hey, give them the time now. That
Right.
way they can have that accelerated development and be ready.
Right.
So,
And I understand that that's a large reason. I think too, if the Spurs did just let DeMar DeRozan go and Rudy Gay go and Patty Mills go, there would be a contingent of fans that would be like, all right, now we get to just let them.
yeah.
It's like, and I'm like, all right, okay, fine. You're just going to trudge through another 82 game season. You're probably going to win 26 games. You're going to win 30 games. I mean, when I hear this logic, look at the Philadelphia 76ers. 8 years into the process, and it's gotten them nothing. There is no guarantee. So I sympathize with people who are like, no, we need to give these guys opportunities. No, we need to tank for a pick, and there's all that kind of stuff. The reality is there's no sure thing. There's no sure thing if you have 3 superstars on your team, Brooklyn Nets. There's no thing if you give yourselves to 8 years worth of the process that involved tanking, Philadelphia 76ers. We've seen all sides of the spectrum. You either get super lucky and draft a Giannis Antetokounmpo when nobody else wanted to. You get super lucky and get Devin Booker, who trudges through the trenches for 3 years, and then suddenly he gets the coach of the year, a bunch of veterans, and Chris Paul to back him up. Or you get, hey, we're the Lakers, and we randomly have Kawhi and Paul George. Like, the 4 teams that are in it right now we're 4 different teams. None of them were built the right way. And then like you randomly have the Atlanta Hawks, who they have Trae Young and probably had a pretty easy path, and none of it really makes sense. I just don't think that like there's just this certainty that goes, yeah, they have to tank and get this pick. I go back to the phrase, mind the gap. The gap is so big. Let's not worry about the solution on the front end with the players. Let's not worry about the back end with DeMar. Let's fill in the middle. And let's get like a consistent team of talent. And even if that's B- talent, okay, let's get B- talent situated. And then let's build and add on to that, or subtract or take away or add to, rather than just, yeah, we've got some guys who are D+. We've got a guy who might be an A- at best. And then a whole bunch of pieces in between. And so overall, our team is a collective C. That's enough math for everybody, but that's the part that infuriates me here.
Well, and you know what? I think the Spurs are a perfect example of the overthinker, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're the overthinker because for so long, right? They didn't have to think. They had Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili. For 19 years, they made the playoffs every year. They had a system in place, corporate knowledge, the whole thing. We've talked about it ad nauseum, but all they had to do was plug in pieces. It was a plug and play kind of thing. But now, right? And this is why I say it's either going to be a too early or too late kind of thing. They've crafted everything to where now they have I think $52 or $55 million in cap space this year.
Yeah.
But who are we going to sign? I mean, who is there to extend or sign? I mean, yeah, we talked about possibly doing a sign and trade with DeMar. I think that's probably the most likely thing to happen. With who, I don't know, but it's
Orlando's got 2 picks in the top 10.
Yeah,
the Warriors have 2 picks in the top 10. I can see that Warriors thing. I can see something working out of that, man. I also think the Cavs could be a little bit interesting with that Kevin Love situation. I mean, they're just a mess of a franchise. Even if you had to send back a couple, maybe I'm sure they're going to want something out of it, but I'd take on Kevin Love in the 3rd and give up the 12th for it, and another body or something like that. You're exactly right, though. There's a lot.
Let me ask you real quick. Let me ask you. So out of the core, right? And let's just say for right now, let's call the core Lonnie, DeJounte, Derek, Keldon, and Devin. All right, let's just call them the core. Okay, the five
wings.
Guys. So yeah, the 5 wings. The five wings. Out of those 5, who would you part with? Who are you most likely to part with out of those 5?
So out of those 5, I'm only interested in keeping 2 of them for sure. And the primary one I want to keep is Keldon. He's number 1.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
I'm inclined I would be inclined to say that from what we've seen, I'm not thrilled with DeJounte or Derek White as a combo. I like them both individually. I don't think that that's a backcourt to lead towards the future. So either one of them or both of them, I'm not thrilled about it. I think I like DeJounte's heart more. I like Derek's skill set better. Lonnie, I'm indifferent about him. And Vassell, I'm just like, there's no harm in keeping him. He's on a rookie deal still, and we don't even know if he's going to warrant an extension. So I'm kind of all over the place. I think at the end of it, I would like to walk out of this offseason and still have at least 2 on the roster, but I wouldn't be upset if all 5 of them were on the roster. And I probably wouldn't cry if all 5 of them were off the roster. I do love Keldon. I think what Keldon has, the dog in him, is hard to teach.
It does.
But I also, Derek White, when he's healthy, man, Derek White is a hooper. Like he is probably the best all-around player on the team. Poor guy can't stay healthy.
When he's healthy, he's like the Sean Lee of the Spurs. I mean, he can just never stay healthy.
Yeah.
He can never stay healthy.
And your boy Lonnie is one night away. One night he's a 0, and the next night that guy's got enough talent. He can go for 35 easy. He's just all over the map, and it's you either sit here and go, all right, let's stick with this, or you kind of just get to a point where you go, you know what, I don't know that I want to deal with the headache of it anymore. And maybe if you have a good enough offer, maybe you take the offer. What's your best offer that you'd be willing to part with for Ben Simmons?
For Ben Simmons, I would definitely.
And I want to say to consider the cap space. So don't necessarily think you have to match up a contract. I'm really just wanting to know, like, what is Ben Simmons worth off the Spurs roster?
To me, and I'm just thinking about who we have now, right? Because I think here's the thing with Ben Simmons right now. His market right now is the lowest it's going to be. It's so low, right? So we talk about Bitcoin and Dogecoin buying low, buying the dip. We need to buy the dip of Ben Simmons, right? We need to put all of that dip on our chip at this point. But here's the thing, Morey, all right, you know I'm a big Morey guy. He's smart as hell. Yeah. He's not going to do anything
you're not
right
gonna finesse
now
him
immediately. No, because right now he knows Ben Simmons' market is low. Yeah. So he's not in a rush to do anything right now with him. He's going to wait. He might even wait until after the Olympics. Yeah. But he's going to wait and see, okay, let's let this kind of die down a little bit. And and you can already hear, right? I think Stephen A. Smith started to leak some stuff this morning saying, hey, there's people who are really close to him saying he doesn't like to work. He doesn't like to add to his game. He's really babied by his family. So, I mean, there's those little feelers that are already going out there. So if it's me, right, looking at what we have on the team right now, I obviously don't want to give up our core, which is those 5 guys you mentioned, to the best that we can. Yeah. So I'm thinking if we can do a sign and trade, do DeMar, and because I think DeMar fits that team.
I do too.
He's a perimeter shooter, not necessarily a 3-point shooter, but they have some 3-point shooters. They have Seth Curry. They have, depending on whether they keep Danny Green or not, they have him.
Cosman.
They have Maxey. They have a couple of 3-point shooters on that team. So they're not in dire need for a 3-point shooter like we are. Yeah. But definitely sign and trade.
They'll take somebody who can score the ball.
Exactly, right? Who can shoot from 18 feet out.
Or 2 feet.
And of course, 21 feet in. Or 2 feet, yeah. But I would even throw in some draft picks. If I had to throw in any of the core, and that's kind of why I asked you that earlier, I'm more inclined to throw in Derek White out of anybody, and only because of his injury woes, because he just has not been able to stay healthy. And I think he might be more enticing to the Sixers, and we could maybe get more back than, let's say, Lonnie or another rookie.
I would agree.
Or another two-year guy.
I almost think that would be Daryl Morey buying low on Derek White if that were the case. I hear you. I mean, I actually agree with you. But
it wouldn't just be Ben Simmons at that point.
You'd have to
make that clear also, because I don't want to get battered on Spurs Twitter saying, "No, Danny's willing to give away Keldon and Derek White." it would have to be, hey, give
There's
us
something coming
Ben
back.
and someone else. Yeah.
There's something coming back. Which, to be honest with you, if you're giving up Derek White and DeMar DeRozan in the signing trade, I'd be asking some questions about Seth Curry. Just floating that out there.
Yeah, for sure.
That's neither here nor there. There's 2 more points I want to get through before we wrap this thing up, and I want to try and keep both of these under 10 minutes. We're going to shift away from some of the drama of the actual basketball roster. I want to look a little bit at the coaching staff here. Becky Hammon, she's going to be a head coach one day. Greg Popovich is closing in on the most wins all time. He's the greatest coach of all time, but he's also run his course. We've said that at nauseum. But real quickly, what do you want to say about Becky? Because she's going to be a first-time head coach somewhere. It's just a matter of time. And
she is.
I would, if I were a betting person, I would say at this point, her first coaching gig ain't going to come with the Spurs.
I fear that that's going to be true. Although, you know what? I'm almost thinking it may not be that Portland job. I think the farther that we kind of get along in that one, I don't know if it's going to be Portland. I think that either they're going to come up with hiring Chauncey Billups or somebody that they haven't named yet. Because if you notice, whenever Shams or Woj says anything, they're just saying they're final candidates. I mean, there's other candidates there, but I mean, there are 2 of them, the two of the named ones.
Yeah.
But I definitely want Becky to be a part of this group. I mean, she's been with us since when 2014. So I mean, she knows the team inside and out. I think she has a really good rapport with the players. The players respect her.
And if they were going to do a rebuild, she'd be great for it.
Absolutely, she has the energy for it. You can just see it on the bench. Yeah. I mean, you look right. I'm a big advocate of just looking at the bench a lot of times whenever there's either a call made or there's a play call to be made, and you consistently see her getting up off the bench. She's excited whenever a play works. You can see it. I mean, she actually jumps up and down. She claps. She gets involved. There's that energy there. There's that fresh eyes. She's ready to attack it with you know what? There's a good example. You always hear that story. Remember Magic Johnson's whenever he was first drafted by the Lakers, he had that very first game. I don't remember against who, but I think the Lakers ended up winning by like 1 or 2 points in overtime. And there was Magic. He was jumping up and down and clapping and dancing and jumping on Kareem's back. And I think there was that story that kind of came out afterwards. Kareem kind of tells him like, "Hey, young fella, you better just, I mean, this is 1 of 82 games, right? I mean, we have plenty more of these to go." And Magic kind of laughed at him and said, "Hey, I'm having fun. I'm just having fun. I mean, this is the game I love. We won a game. I'm in LA. I'm a Laker. Let me live," kind of thing.
Let me live.
And I see that with Becky. Where I think she would kind of bring that same energy and vigor. And with the group that we have now, look, we saw that picture come out last night with the guys at Fiesta with the Fiesta hats on there. They're young guys. They want to be out there. They want to be having fun. I mean, they're in their 20s.
They don't want
they're
this
millionaires and they're basketball players. Let them have fun. And we need somebody to accompany that and give them that energy and give them that juice to go out there and do what they need to do. And so I mean, I want her. I want her as a coach. I would be very disappointed if we don't eventually hire her. I think the other name that I want to kind of float out there, that if we don't somehow get Becky or we don't retain her, I want to see Ime back. I want to see Ime back. And I know he was on the Sixers bench this year. I don't know what his plans are, whether he's going to go back or not. Because I think I want to say the year before he was with the Nets, right? If I'm not mistaken. So
well, maybe if the Spurs trade for Ben Simmons, he'll come along.
Yeah, that would be excellent.
Okay.
Because I think he could make a connection with the guys too.
I agree. So last thing I want to discuss here, and we're going to end this on a positive note, but one other thing that happened while we were on little hiatus here, Tim Duncan is now a member of the Hall of Fame, rightly so. And we've sang his praises. I still to this day can't believe there's people on social media that believe that Anthony Davis is better than Tim Duncan, the dumbest thing in the world.
Children.
If you believe that, you're so dumb. Anyways, just give me like 60 seconds on the legend of Tim Duncan.
I'm sorry, repeat that because you kind of came in and out.
Sorry. Yeah, just give me like 60 seconds on the legend of Tim Duncan.
The legend of Tim Duncan. I mean, obviously 60 seconds isn't going to be enough, but we'll keep it within 60 seconds. The legend of Tim Duncan is this, that whenever Tim Duncan came to town, he came to town to San Antonio in 1997. And I think at that time I was 16. He came into a town that was still growing, still trying to figure out itself, with a team that I think was very much in, whether we wanted to believe it or knew it or not at the time, was very much in a quandary as to what their future was going to look like, whether it was going to be in San Antonio or elsewhere. And he came as a calming presence, which is weird to say because he was the youngest person at that time on the team. He came in as a 21 or 22-year-old, and he gave the team stability. He gave the team a gravitas they didn't have prior to him. David was different, right? David Robinson, he did that in a different way. Tim made it legitimate. Tim made it legitimate to where the league took notice that he was now here and that we were on the map at that point. And I'll wrap it up by saying, if we don't have Tim Duncan, we don't have the Spurs in San Antonio.
Right.
We're cheering for another team elsewhere, whether it be Las Vegas,
the Las Vegas
Seattle.
Spurs.
Yeah. Oh, don't even joke about it because I'm still deathly afraid of that happening one day. But yeah, if
we lost you for just a second. Finish that. You're afraid of it happening where they go to Las Vegas.
Yes, yeah, I'm afraid, definitely afraid of that happening at some point. Although, I mean, I'm hoping that this cash infusion by Dell and 6th Street kind of maintains our presence here, but I don't know, who knows.
Amen. Well said. All right, so this puts a nice, pretty bow on the 2020-2021 NBA season. It was rubbish for the Spurs. They ended up barely being, I guess, how do I say that? They were fabulously mediocre as justified by their lottery picks that they just received. They'll be picking 12th coming up here. I think the draft is like the first week of August. And then like 96 hours later, NBA free agency opens up. So we're going to take a few power naps between now and then. It has been a fun season. And also, I know that you jumped in as a free agent in the middle of the season, filling in for Trace. Still got to figure out what the future holds for Casa De Spurs, but you were an admirable co-host during these last few months. So I tip my hat to you, sir. Thank you very much for jumping on with us. Don't forget.
It was my pleasure.
Yeah, man, you're the legend over here. Don't forget to follow Danny, Danny Sanders 80 on Twitter. He's got plenty of hot takes. And if I catch anybody using that Ray Liotta gift from Goodfellas, I am going to fine you because that gift belongs to you, Danny. That is yours. It's copyrighted. Nobody's allowed to touch it. And
I'm gonna start sending out some Cash App requests.
Yeah,
at least 10 cents
something
per use, man.
You got to get a royalty
10
fee
cents
off
per
of that.
use.
And you're getting pretty close to royalties
Oh.
on the Ben Affleck picture too. I'm a big fan of that one too.
Oh yeah, that one's a hot one. And also, real quick, just to kind of plug something else I've been working on. I'm only 3 episodes in, but if you want to see the softer side of Danny Sanders, you can always go to my other podcast that I've started on my own called Talk to Me, and you can find me on Twitter at the Talk to Me Pod. Just life musings, and it's just a way to kind of just get some stuff off my chest. So
I love it. I love it. Go follow the Talk to Me Pod on Twitter, and of course I am Steven Alfonso Del Quan, better known as just Quan around these parts. Follow me on Twitter at the Hailstone, and follow Casa De Spurs on Twitter as well. Thank you everybody for listening to us. If anybody listened to us, and if you dared to listen to us on any platform where you get your podcast, we're available also on YouTube as well. All right, for Danny and for Trace, who's floating around somewhere in Germany, I'm Steven. That's Casa De Spurs. That's a wrap for the season. Always remember, no matter what happens, no matter how dark the days are, go Spurs, go.
Go and scene.